said, where our strategy has landed, a little bit of understanding our role in the marketplace right now, and then I say we open it up to questions, and then we can even just do a little bit of one-on-one, networking and talking with a sized group, and then break for the day. Cool. So Rubicon Venture Capital became active out of Fund 1 in March of 2014. So we're still pretty new. We've been investing in roughly one new company a month. So we're at 16 companies completing a 17th investment right now. And we invest in mostly, I think I've already said it, later stage seed, A and B, where we think that later stage seed is what Series A used to be. And you're typically going to see at least one other major VC in that round with us that either we brought in through our VC network, or we're getting brought in by another VC, or there is another one. I guess the way we started was, rather than raise money from, and it's even worth talking about who are the typical investors in the venture capital asset class. Typical investors in the VC asset class for like the big guys on Sand Hill Road are going to be big pools of money. So a pool of money that's got a lot of money to deploy. And so that could be a family office, an insurance company, sometimes even banks. They're making products for some of their institutional investors, pension funds, endowments of universities. Like, one of the world's great ironies is that if you look at all the newest companies that are disrupting the world, even from like a Microsoft to the newest companies like Twitter, Facebook, Evernote, and all that, they're funded by endowments from like Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard and Yale that are, the oldest institutions in the world. So the oldest institutions own the newest ones. But rather than do that, we raised money from just people that we knew. So Matsumoto in Tokyo, I've known him. We talked about that for many, many years, and showed the strategy of how we were going to get into this, set of companies and drill down deeper on the ones that, we thought were the biggest hits. And what we walked away with was, we then realized we can market ourselves based on what has just happened. That our investors are almost all VC-backed CEOs, and that went back to the Founders Club days, that there's a lot of CEOs, CTOs of companies that had raised VC funding and gotten to an exit that were putting money into the fund. And we ended up with, these guys often think that they're smarter than VCs, and maybe they are, but they want to be active. And so what we ended up with was that they invest in the fund, and then every time the fund invests, if there's time or if it's possible, we open up what we call a sidecar fund, which is technically an SPV. So remember I gave the example of like big New York First Mark creates an opportunity fund to invest in BuzzFeed or something. And by the way, I'm not even sure if that's true, but I know they do opportunity funds. We're doing an opportunity fund every time the fund invests. So for all of our VC-backed guys, lawyers, bankers, M&A guys, even some corporates that think they're smarter than VCs, they can double down on any deal they want via the SPV. And that's coming alongside the fund at later stage seed, what A used to be, A and B. And then for Series C and later, where we stop investing from the fund when we think that a 10x multiple, a 10x return is not really attainable. So it might be entering that very attractive 4x area, or 2x, or 3x, or 6x, and it maybe does get a 10x, but we tend to stop when those valuations get super high, and we might even consider ourselves selling. We continue to make the SPVs for that, and rather than reach out to a subset of our LPs, which can upset some of your LPs of, hey, I'm an LP in the fund, how come you didn't give me access to your BuzzFeed sidecar? And they're saying, well, we're not set up for it, it's a pain in the butt to call everybody, and you were very difficult on the way in on the fund, so I didn't want a difficult situation. I'm taking up my time to populate my SPV. We're more algorithmic, so based on the percentage of the fund you've got, that's like the pro rata percentage you have on any SPV. And what ends up happening is that we push money into the startup from the fund so we can move fast, and then we tell the CEO, hey, if you can let us do a sidecar, you'll end up with some corporates, some family offices, and some angels who are emotionally excited about the success of your company. And they're actually smarter than me. In fact, you might have spoken to 3 of them when we were doing due diligence to begin with. So we leverage, we're like an extendable VC where we extend outside of our own population of 3 full-time guys and 16 venture partners to 100 plus people, including people that run corporates. So after the SPV happens, we then often introduce the CEO to some or all of them. And a lot of them are around here, so we can get together for a drink in SF or Palo Alto. And the CEO meets these people that want to help, but he's got a very tidy cap table. So like as far as who owns what percentage of his company, it's just Rubicon 1, Rubicon 2. And he's technically only dealing with us. So it also, when we were showing that whole, the beginning slide of like the stages, pre-seed to seed and A and B, by the time you get to later stage seed, it's harder and harder for an angel to get in on that. By the time it gets to like A and B, the only way they can invest is if they're already incumbent in the deal with a pro rata. And they're really not welcomed, and they might even struggle on access to information. It might be illegal what's actually happening, but they basically don't get informed that there was an opportunity to invest more. And if they invest $500K in a $20 million round, it's just annoying everybody. With us, it's sort of like a first time in history, in my opinion, or a unique financial product that Goldman Sachs wealth managers can get you into hedge funds. We can get you into a series A, B, C, D, E later, even with whatever check size you want via our SPV. And so I think that's good on the investor side. And the SPVs on the economics, they have deal by deal carry, which is attractive for all those same reasons we're talking about with AngelList. But rather than pocket all of that carry for us as the general partners, we pay a slug of that carry as a cash distribution to everybody in the main fund. So imagine the main fund invests in 25 deals, and it's on average investing 2 or 3 times into those 25, so you have like kind of 50, 75 transactions easily, and that there were maybe 50 sidecars that went alongside of them. If one of those sidecars is a big hit, whatever I get from the fund, I probably pay all my investors back until I'm repaying the entire fund from that one exit out of 25 deals. But we're in the money right away on our sidecar, and then we pay a big slug of our carry from the sidecar as a cash distribution to everybody in the fund. So rather than be evergreen and reinvest that money that goes from the sidecar to the fund, we just say, what's your bank account? We wire you more money back. So for us to have more AUM, more assets under management in sidecar than fund is what we want. And we think that this delivers more value to the startup because we're populating the startup with investors that care, who can add value. And oftentimes, and I think it's a good way to live your life, to say, if I can't add value, I won't invest. Because you trying to help is maybe destroying value. And if you can add value, then great. And then the word will get out of how great you are. And your deal flow will come back to you and the dividends. So that's a little bit about how we're set up. We started off with basically all angels, but all ecosystem people. So there's hardly anybody in the fund who's not like either a CEO who's had an exit, or an early founder of some major company, or somebody big at VMware, or Twitter, Facebook. We've kind of had all the big Silicon Valley guys covered. And then in our New York office, we have a bunch of kind of Goldman Sachs partners that have interesting orthogonal networks that can add value outside of just everybody here knows everybody like it's Israel. These guys in New York know people in Malaysia and deep parts of China, which are hard for us to understand. And so it's just an interesting network to leverage. So we're really trying to leverage that network as much as possible for every stage of the VC process, from deal sourcing to deal vetting. Even on the seduction of the CEO part that I talked about, I'll often ask the CEO to take 3 phone calls with 3 of our people. And after I understand what the company does, I said, look, you'd be lucky to be introduced to these 3 people, even if we don't invest. Look at who they are. The CEO's like, hell yeah, I'll take those calls. And then after that, they're thinking, Rubicon understands our business better than any other VC because those guys are operators from the sector. And then that helps us triangulate information to be kind of slightly industry agnostic, like we're not all payments or all consumer or something. And if those guys really love it, then we're ready to get in. I'd also say that the venture capital asset class has often struggled for lack of transparency. That if you look at a lot of VC funds, they invest in 15 deals, and if they didn't have that one Google or that one Facebook or that one Twitter, the whole fund would have been underwater. Like it never got into carry. They returned some money, but they never got into profit. And so they kind of want to be a little quiet and discreet about what's happening in their kitchen until they have that which one returned the fund bit. With us, we brought a new level of transparency that every time we're investing just about, we open up a sidecar and send out a letter to everybody saying, the fund is putting in $1 million, we've got room for another $2 million. Does anybody want to double down on this deal? And even if they don't, they are informed about what's happening. So if they wanted access to innovation for their, fintech or whatever, you're seeing information that maybe pays other dividends for you as a corporate or individual. And if you do double down,